there a variety that's within there, or is like if a white person came and said, "I'd like to join the group," what does that look like?
All right, so let's say you're Mike Winger, and you say, "I'm Mike Winger. I'm of European descent," right?
Yeah.
You could
Irish.
go to you say you said that, right? You could go to GOCC, Gathering of Christ Church. GOCC teaches you are a Gentile. You're not an Israelite like us, but you can be grafted in. And a lot of the other groups criticize GOCC for allowing Gentiles at their Passover. And so that's one group, and they're even a One West group. Or you could go to Israel of God that I mentioned earlier. You could go and they would say, okay, just let us teach you, brother. So one thing that's big with these groups, like Israel of God, for example, is they believe in something they kind of officially, almost with a capital P, call the protocol. And by that, they mean you can't go out of order. Kind of like we would hold I don't know about you, but certain Christians hold a complementarianism. They think there's an established order of creation. GOCC, or especially IOG, that's Israel of God, is big on there's a protocol. There's an order in God's creation. So a Gentile, that's how they would see you. That's how they see me as well. Can only teach other Gentiles, can have no teaching authority over someone who's deemed an Israelite. Doesn't matter the age, doesn't matter the level of knowledge, anything like that. Now, let's say you said, well, I still want to teach, man. Well, then you've got to go all the way out to Tennessee, and you can join up with Straightway Ministries, and you can Straightway Truth Ministries under Pastor Dow, and he'll say, hey, you could join in, and we'll even let you teach. And the wild thing about his group is they have a massive internet influence. And for whatever reason, I think it's because they promote sort of a hyper masculinity. Not that I'm against masculinity, but sort of a toxic masculinity in the sense of toxic gets overused, but the way they promote it almost could be, well, that does seem like an example of toxic masculinity. It's got to have some meaning. Anyways, I don't want people to think I'm a snowflake over here. But anyways, you could go over there. They've got a lot of NFL players, former NFL players in their group. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. And almost all their NFL players who have joined up with Straightway are former professing Christians when they were in the league. So you could join with them. Or you could go to GMS, Mike. So I'm telling you all the cults you can join. You could go to GMS and say, here I am. They'll say, well, who's your father? My father is a McCluskey, and he's Irish. Okay, well, we know that there was black Irish. Do you resonate with our teaching? They're not going to say it that way. They'll say, do you believe what we're saying? Do you vibe with it? And you say, yeah. And then they say, well, let me hear your breakdown of such and such. And you say, hey, my spirit says, because the spirit cries out, and the spirit of the prophets discerns. I use 1 Corinthians and they use Galatians, which says our spirit cries out, Father. And they'll say, we discern that you are an Israelite, even though you don't look like a stereotypical Israelite. And so you would actually be deemed a genetic Israelite. And if another camp say, hey, this guy's white, how come he's in your camp? And they'll say, well, haven't you read the passage in Daniel? And I think it's in Hosea. One says that Israel will be as a speckled bird, and the other one says that there will be confusion of face. So they use those two passages to say Israel will become mixed looking, even though you actually are really an Israelite. So they're not looking at you, Mike, as we're accepting a white guy. They're saying you're a European, or you appear to be a European because of the mixture, but you actually are an Israelite on your father's side. It's just you look the way you look. They're not saying you're a white guy we're letting in. We're saying you look like a white guy, but you're actually Israelite. That's GMS. Yeah. So some of the groups will let a white person in, but it's under different ways. Now, Let's say it's ISUPK. Last example I'll get. They say, if you're white in any way, you look at how you look, you can't even come to our barbecue. You are not allowed to eat with us in a public park when we have our barbecue. It literally says on their flyer, no whites.
So they must not like Paul, right? Like they have to reject what Paul says.
They turn to Paul. They turn to Peter, and they say, look, Peter says that the wicked and the corrupt twist Paul's letters, and that's exactly what you white Christians do. You twist his. So we need to get an understanding on Paul based upon the Israelite understanding, because didn't he say he's a Hebrew of Hebrew, not your white European twisting of Paul? They would say you don't understand Paul, ISUPK, for example. Yeah. Other ones, like Ron Shields, Divine Prospect, Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, and Sakari, they would say Paul was simply wrong sometimes, or that he's offering a rabbinical opinion for Gentiles that has no bearing on me.
Yeah.
So they have different ways to deal with Paul.